I was just 14 years old, and it was a seemingly ordinary night, the clock edging closer to 9 p.m. My little cousin and I were at his house, with me taking on the role of the responsible babysitter while our parents were out. My mom and aunt were shopping, and my dad and uncle had gone to the movie theater. Little did I know, this night would soon become a horrifying memory etched into my mind forever. As my cousin and I sat in the living room, the air grew thick with an unsettling tension that sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something was undeniably wrong. Determined to dismiss my unease, I suggested we watch TV. But that eerie sensation persisted, refusing to be ignored. Unable to bear it any longer, I rose from the couch and quietly made my way to the back door, my heart pounding like a drum. My intention was to secure the door, but as I returned through the kitchen, a sight froze me in my tracks. In the window, there he was, a ghastly, homeless-looking man, his eyes devoid of humanity, locked onto my innocent cousin. Fear gripped me, but a fierce protectiveness surged through me. I pretended not to notice the intruder and calmly told my little cousin that it was bedtime, concocting a story about our parents returning soon. I hurriedly led him upstairs and tucked him into bed, all the while knowing that a menacing presence lurked just outside. Back downstairs, I knew I had to confront the danger. At 14, I was hardly imposing, standing at 5 feet 8 inches and weighing around 125 pounds, but I was a football player, and my instincts shifted into full protective mode. I rushed into the kitchen, my trembling hands grabbing a heavy meat tenderizing hammer, ready to face the unknown threat. With the hammer clutched tightly in my hand, I turned back to the window where I'd seen the man earlier. He had vanished. Panic surged through me as I raced to the front door, confirming that it was securely locked, both the deadbolt and the knob. The intruder had to be outside, but I couldn't see him. Fearing for my cousin's safety, I dashed back upstairs, entering his room and positioning myself in front of the door. He asked me what was happening, and I assured him that everything would be okay, instructing him to stay hidden and quiet. I dialed 911, my voice trembling as I reported the terrifying situation to the dispatcher. The police were on their way, but they were still a harrowing half-hour away. I knew I had to hold the line. Then came the gut-wrenching sound of a window shattering, followed by the ominous thud of heavy boots on the floor below. My heart raced as I huddled with my cousin under the covers, his wide eyes mirroring my own fear. I strained to hear the intruder's movements downstairs, a horrifying symphony of impending danger. Clutching the meat tenderizing hammer, I waited, every second feeling like an eternity. Then, the nightmare escalated further as the ominous boots began to ascend the stairs, my cousin's room merely 10 feet away. My heart hammered in my chest, terror seizing my every thought. I listened helplessly as the intruder opened doors to my aunt and uncle's room, then the bathroom. My mind raced, frantically piecing together a plan. The intruder's footsteps receded down the stairs, and I heard the door to the basement creak open. An agonizing 15 minutes later, the police arrived, bursting into the house, ending the nightmarish ordeal. It turned out that the intruder had escaped from a mental hospital in a neighboring province, and my quick thinking and determination had kept my cousin and me safe from an unspeakable threat. This chilling encounter would forever haunt my memories, a vivid testament to the horrors that can lurk in the darkest corners of the night. I was just a 20-year-old girl trying to make sense of life when my world was turned upside down one fateful night. It was around 1 a.m., and I was alone in my small but cozy house. Little did I know that this night would become a pivotal moment in my life, shaping my future in ways I could never have imagined. As I lay in bed, the darkness outside was interrupted by the faint glow of streetlights. I couldn't sleep, My mind was racing with thoughts of my pending divorce and the turbulent relationship I had with my soon-to-be ex-husband. We had grown apart, and our marriage had become a nightmare of emotional abuse and turmoil. Suddenly, I heard a noise outside my window. At first, I thought it might be a stray animal or a passing neighbor. But as I strained my ears to listen, I realized that there was someone outside, moving stealthily around my house. Fear gripped my heart as I realized that it wasn't a random stranger, it was my soon-to-be ex-husband. My instincts kicked in, and I knew I had to protect myself. I quietly slipped out of bed, careful not to make a sound. My kitchen window was open, the screen still intact, providing a slight barrier between me and the intruder. I knew that climbing into that window was my safest option if he managed to get inside. As I tiptoed towards the kitchen, my senses heightened. I could hear him muttering angrily to himself, and the sound of his footsteps echoed ominously in the night. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could feel my palms sweating. I reached the kitchen window, trying to control my breathing as I watched him from the shadows. The situation took a horrifying turn when I began to smell gasoline. Panic surged through me as I realized his sinister intent. He was trying to set my house on fire, with me inside. I needed help, and I needed it fast. Without wasting another moment, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. My voice trembled as I whispered the details to the operator, desperately hoping that the police would arrive in time to save me and stop this madness. To my surprise, the response was swift. The police arrived at my doorstep quicker than I could have imagined. The flashing blue and red lights pierced through the darkness, and I could hear their sirens approaching. Relief washed over me as I knew that help was on its way. The police confronted my ex-husband just as he was about to carry out his dangerous plan. They apprehended him, and I could see the fear in his eyes as he was taken into custody. The restraining order I had obtained against him had been violated, and he was going to pay for his actions. In that moment, I felt a mix of emotions: relief, fear, anger, and sadness. My life had taken an unexpected turn, and I knew that I needed to find the strength within me to move forward. This incident was a wake-up call, a stark reminder that I could not let fear and vulnerability dictate my life. In the days that followed, I made a conscious decision to take control of my destiny. I had always been a fighter, and now more than ever, I needed to fight for myself. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to rise above the darkness that had consumed me for far too long. One of the first steps I took was to immerse myself in the world of boxing. I had always been drawn to the sport, and I realized that it could provide me with the physical and emotional strength I needed. I joined a local boxing gym and began training tirelessly. It was grueling, and I often found myself drenched in sweat and exhausted, but I pushed through the pain. Boxing became my sanctuary, a place where I could release my pent-up anger and frustration. It allowed me to channel my emotions into something productive, something that was under my control. I was no longer a victim, I was a fighter, both inside and outside the ring. As I honed my skills and grew stronger, I decided to take my passion for boxing to the next level. I embarked on a journey to become a professional boxer. It was a daunting path, but I was fueled by the desire to prove to myself and to the world that I could overcome any challenge. Becoming a professional boxer was not easy. It required immense dedication, discipline, and unwavering determination. I trained relentlessly, pushing my body to its limits. I faced opponents who were often more experienced and skilled, but I refused to back down. Every fight was a battle not just in the ring but within myself, a battle to conquer my fears and doubts. Over time, I started gaining recognition in the boxing world. I won matches, earned titles, and became a symbol of resilience for others who were facing their own battles. My story of transformation from a scared young woman to a fierce fighter inspired many, and I was determined to use my platform to advocate for those who had experienced domestic violence and abuse. But my journey didn't stop there. I wanted to do more, to make a difference beyond the boxing ring. It was then that an unexpected opportunity came my way. I was offered a job as a correctional officer at the state penitentiary. Working in a correctional facility was a challenging and demanding role. I had to deal with inmates who had committed serious crimes, and the environment was often tense and unpredictable. However, I saw it as an opportunity to further develop my strength, both mentally and physically. As a correctional officer, I had to undergo rigorous training to ensure I could handle the responsibilities of the job. I learned how to maintain control in high-pressure situations, diffuse conflicts, and enforce rules with authority. The experience taught me valuable life skills that extended far beyond the walls of the prison. One of the most significant aspects of my job was the self-defense training I received. The same instructors who trained Secret Service agents taught me how to protect myself and others in dangerous situations. I learned techniques to disarm attackers, handle confrontations, and stay composed under stress. This self-defense training was empowering in ways I couldn't have imagined. It gave me the confidence to navigate the world with a sense of security and self-assuredness. I was nobody's punching bag anymore, and I was determined to empower others to feel the same way. As the years passed, I continued to excel in my career as a correctional officer and as a professional boxer. I became a role model for young women, a symbol of strength and resilience in the face of adversity. I used my platform to raise awareness about domestic violence and to advocate for those who were trapped in abusive relationships, encouraging them to seek help and find their own paths to freedom and empowerment. Looking back on that fateful night when I saw my ex-husband attempting to set my house on fire, I realized that it was a turning point in my life. It was a moment of extreme danger and vulnerability, but it also ignited a fire within me, a fire that fueled my determination to rise above my circumstances and become the strong, empowered woman I am today. My journey from fear to strength was not easy, and there were moments when I wanted to give up. But I refused to let the darkness of that night define me. I chose to define myself through my resilience, my determination, and my unwavering belief in my own strength. Life has a way of testing us, of pushing us to our limits. But it's how we respond to those challenges that truly defines us. I chose to respond with courage, with perseverance, and with the unshakable belief that I could overcome anything. Today, I stand as a living testament to the power of resilience and self-belief. I am a survivor, a fighter, and an advocate for those who are still on their journeys to healing and empowerment. My story is a reminder that no matter how dark the night may seem, there is always a way to find the light within ourselves and emerge stronger on the other side. It was just a few months ago, but the memory of that fateful Friday night in my small, safe neighborhood still sends shivers down my spine. You see, my dad's job keeps him on the road for most of the week, so I only really get to see him from Saturday morning to Sunday afternoon. That particular Friday was shaping up to be like any other, except for one unexpected twist. My buddy, Zach, had come over for a sleepover. We were in the middle of wrapping up a history project that had been hanging over our heads for what felt like eons. The good news was that we were almost done with it, leaving us with the whole night ahead to goof off and unwind. My mom, being the sweet and reliable soul that she is, popped into my room around 9 p.m. and casually mentioned that she needed to make a quick trip to the town 30 minutes away. No big deal, right? We assured her we'd be fine, and she just told us to keep an ear out for my younger siblings. So there we were, two teenage misfits sitting on my bed, engrossed in a fierce battle on my Xbox. The sounds of virtual warfare filled the room as we laughed and strategized. It felt like the world was ours for the taking. But then, out of nowhere, the night took a decidedly eerie turn. A faint, unsettling noise began to permeate the room, a low, irregular scratching at my window. I paused the game, my fingers hovering over the controller, while Zach and I exchanged puzzled glances. It was weird, no doubt about it, but I tried to brush it off, attributing it to the restlessness of my two dogs, Max and Bella, who often chased shadows and squirrels in the backyard. Surely, that's all it was. We resumed our game, but the strange noise persisted, growing more insistent. It was as though an unseen force was determined to interrupt our gaming marathon. Minutes felt like hours as we listened to the rhythmic, unnerving sound. Finally, curiosity got the better of us. I could tell Zach's curiosity was burning as fiercely as mine, and we shared a silent agreement. Slowly, cautiously, we made our way to the window. With a quick, simultaneous yank, we pulled open the blinds and peered outside, our hearts pounding. And there, right below my window, our eyes widened in shock and disbelief. A man was sprawled out on the ground, and he was bleeding. Panic surged through us like a lightning bolt, and I felt a scream rising in my throat. But before I could let it out, Zach grabbed my arm and pulled me away from the window, placing a trembling finger to his lips, silently urging me to keep quiet. My mind raced, a whirlwind of fear and confusion. What on earth was going on? Who was this man, and why was he bleeding in my backyard? Questions swirled in my head as we frantically tried to make sense of the surreal scene unfolding before us. We scrambled back to my bed and huddled together, not knowing what to do. The urgency of the situation couldn't be ignored any longer. This was beyond our realm of understanding or control. Our only course of action was to call my mom, who was still in town. With trembling hands, I dialed her number. My voice quivered as I relayed the situation. She sounded worried but composed and told us she was on her way back. As she hung up, I couldn't help but wonder what she must be thinking. How could I even begin to explain this bizarre predicament? It felt like an eternity, but in reality, it was just a matter of minutes before the familiar sound of my mom's car pulled into the driveway. She rushed inside, her face etched with concern, and I led her to the window. Sure enough, there he was, the bleeding man, lying in the shadows beneath the window. My mom's expression grew grave, and she wasted no time in dialing 911. Her voice remained calm and steady as she explained the situation to the operator. Help was on the way. As we waited for the authorities to arrive, I couldn't shake the image of that wounded man out of my mind. Who was he, and how had he ended up in this strange and perilous situation? The minutes dragged on, each one heavier than the last. Soon enough, the sound of sirens pierced the night, signaling the arrival of the police and an ambulance. Flashing lights bathed our backyard in an eerie, surreal glow. It was like something out of a movie, only it was happening in my own backyard. The paramedics, clad in their blue uniforms, swiftly tended to the injured man. They carefully assessed his wounds and got him stabilized on a stretcher. My mom provided what information she could to the police officers, but it wasn't much. We didn't know this man, and we certainly didn't expect him to be bleeding beneath my window on an otherwise ordinary Friday night. With the wounded man safely in the ambulance, the police began their investigation. They questioned us about what we'd seen and heard, and we recounted the eerie scratching sounds that had sent us to the window. It was an unsettling experience, having to piece together a puzzle that seemed to make less sense with each passing moment. A few days later, we received some answers, though they only added to the mystery of that strange night. It turned out that the injured man was a homeless drug user who had gotten into a violent altercation with someone. The noises we'd heard weren't the product of some sinister plan to break into my home but rather the desperate struggles of a man in pain, trying to stand up and, shockingly, to open my window. Learning the truth behind that night left me with mixed emotions. I was relieved to know that there hadn't been an immediate threat to us, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled in. It was a stark reminder that unexpected and potentially dangerous situations could arise even in the coziest and safest of neighborhoods. Looking back, that night serves as a lesson in the importance of staying vigilant and being prepared for the unexpected. It's a reminder that sometimes life takes strange and frightening turns, and it's up to us to respond calmly and decisively when it does. Though our sleepovers may never be quite the same, Zach and I will forever share a unique bond forged in the bizarre events of that unforgettable Friday night.